It all began with an annoying phone call. It's always like this every year. Once Christmas is over, all the festive feeling simply vanishes without a trace. As we count down towards the end of the year, when Haruhi would begin the activities that she'd come up with, I had a brief period of winter vacation in which I could get some breathing space. At that time, I was busy with the end-of-year spring cleaning chores, while wrestling with shamisen in my room. Hold still. Be a good boy. It'll be over soon. I ignored his protests and lifted up the twisting fur ball, with new-grown fur for winter, holding him under my armpit. Memories of the time shamisen reduced my cherished jean jacket to a piece of worthless cloth serve as a painful reminder to regularly cut his claws. Shamisen also seems to have a good memory as well for a cat, as every time he sees me walking towards him with a nail cutter, he would always attempt to escape at the fastest speed possible. It was a nightmare trying to catch him, as I had to hold down a cat that would claw, kick, and bite endlessly, while I tried to straighten his paws in order to cut his claws to a reasonable length, one by one. My hands would always be covered in claw marks once it was over, but while physical wounds can always be healed, the embroidery on my jean jacket can never be mended, so I dare not relax for a moment. How I missed the days when he could eerily speak and understand the human tongue. What happened to that straight-talking you? Forget it. If you start speaking again, it means something big has happened again. A cat ought to behave like one and just make meowing noises. As I was done trimming the claws on Shamisen's right front paw and was working towards his left front paw,
Kyon, you got a phone call!
Barging into my room without knocking was my sister, carrying the cordless phone in her hand. When she saw Shamisen struggling in a battle of dignity and authority between cat and human, she smiled.
Shami, do you need help cutting your claws? Let me help!
Shamisen turned his gaze away from her, as though she were a busybody, and snorted like a human. I once asked my sister to help me cut his claws. At that time, we split our tasks. I was in charge of holding his paws while my sister was in charge of cutting them. Unfortunately, this 11-year-old 5th grader didn't know when she was going too far, so she didn't have the talents for cutting nails either. In the end, she went far too deep into Shamisen's nails and he went on a hunger strike for a week in protest. Compared to her, my cutting skills were obviously better, but as always, he would still run and claw everywhere. Are the brains of a cat as big as their foreheads? Who is it? I put down the nail cutter and picked up the phone receiver. Seeing a chance to escape, Shamisen quickly jerked loose and kicked off my knee before finally running out of the room. My sister happily picked up the nail cutter and said,
It's a guy! I don't know him, but he says he's your friend!
She then ran off to chase after Shamisen and disappeared into the corridor outside. I stared at the phone and thought, who could it be? If it was Koizumi, then my sister would have recognized him. Taniguchi, Kunikita, and my other friends would always call me on my cell phone, not my home phone. If it's some boring telephone pole or salesperson, they can go to hell, I thought as I pushed the talk button. Hello?
Hi, is that Kyon? It's me. It's been a while.
As the rough voice said the first sentence, wrinkles appeared on my forehead. Who the hell's this guy? I never heard his voice before.
It's me. We were in the same class in junior high, remember? Do you know how much I've sighed during the past 6 months as I was thinking of you?
What the? That's gross! Identify yourself. Who are you?
It's Nakagawa. We were still classmates a year ago. Have you forgotten after just a year? Or have you made new friends in high school and now you've forgotten all about your classmates from junior high? How cold-hearted.
The voice in the phone sounded very sad, yet... Of course not. I opened my memory banks and retraced my memories in my 3rd year of junior high. Nakagawa, huh? I think I remember there was such a person in my class. He was a wide-headed, broad-shouldered, and muscular, athletic-looking guy. I think he was in the rugby club. But I once again looked at the receiver. We were only classmates in our 3rd year, and we weren't particularly close to each other. We hung out with different groups in class. While we would occasionally greet each other when we walked by, I definitely don't remember ever having a conversation with him. After graduation, Nakagawa's name and appearance never even registered once in my mind. I picked up the claw shreds dropped by Shamisen on the ground and said, Nakagawa, is it? So you're Nakagawa. It really has been a while. So, how are you doing? I remember you entering an all-boys school. Well, why are you calling me now? Have you become the secretary of the Alumni Association?
That position has already been filled by Pseudo, who's now Municipal High, but that's not important. Of course, I'm calling you for a reason. So listen carefully, because I'm serious about it.
You call it all of a sudden just to say you're serious? After such an ambiguous sentence, my wits were at an end as to guessing just what he was trying to say.
Kyon, you have to seriously hear me out. The only one I can talk to about this is you. You're my lifeline.
No, isn't that exaggerating a bit? Alright already, hurry up and say it.
I think I'm in love. I'm serious, I've been troubled about it. For these past few months, whether I was awake or asleep, I can only think of this. I'm up to the point where I can no longer concentrate on doing anything else. No, that's not true. I still manage to immerse myself in my studies and club activities. Thanks to that, my grades have actually improved, and it took less than a year for me to become a regular on my team. This was all fueled by my love. Do you understand, Kyon? I'm so troubled deep inside. After looking for your home number in the junior high school book, do you know how long I hesitated before calling you? Even now, my body is still trembling. This is love. It's the amazing power of love that has compelled me to call you. I hope you understand.
But Nakagawa. I licked my lips. Cold sweat trickled down my forehead. Oh God, I should have never answered the phone. I'm sorry, but I don't think I can accept your love. All I can say is, I'm sorry. I really am. I just can't promise you anything. I guess you could say a cold shiver just went down my spine. Now let me set the record straight. I am an absolutely normal heterosexual male. My preference for the same team weighs less than that of a hummingbird. In other words, it's non-existent. Whether subconsciously or unconsciously, my preference has always been straight. See? Aren't I right? My body would go hot just thinking about Asahina-san. If Koizumi had called me saying such stuff, I would have hung up already. By the way, I'm not bisexual either. Do I make myself clear? My mind was full of rhetoric I wasn't sure how to address. I continued to speak on the receiver. So, Nakagawa, we can still remain as friends, but I don't think I'll be able to commit myself to a romantic relationship. I'm sorry. That's all. If you wanted to pursue romance, try the boys' school you're studying at instead, as I intend to lead a normal high school life. I'm glad to be able to hear your voice after so long. If we should ever meet in an alumni gathering, I'll pretend not to remember and would still treat you with respect. I also won't tell anyone about this, so goodbye.
Hold it, Kyon.
Nakagawa said, sounding astonished.
What are you talking about? Don't get me wrong, you're not the person I'm in love with. Where'd you get such ideas anyway? That's gross.
Then what were you saying all that romantic stuff for? If you're not saying it to me, then who was it for?
Actually, I don't really know her name. I just know it's a girl from North High.
Though I hadn't completely understood what he was talking about, I breathed a sigh of relief. Like a soldier in the battle trenches relieved at hearing that a truce has been made. There was nothing scarier than hearing a confession of love from a guy. For me, that is. Can you please elaborate more? Just who was it that you're in love with?
It was in spring, sometime in May. That girl was walking with you. I only need to close my eyes and her image would appear in my mind. Her appearance is just so adorable, absolutely beautiful. Not only that, I even saw a glowing aura behind her back. That wasn't an illusion. Yes, it was as holy and pure as the heaven shining upon the earth.
His remembrance sounded like those dangerous drug hallucinations.
I was completely overwhelmed. It was a feeling I've never had in my life. It's as though an electric current just went through my whole body. No, it was like being struck by a mega lightning bolt that nailed me to the ground. I then stood there for hours. It seems as though I've lost all sense of time. By the time I regained my senses, it was already nightfall. And then I realized, this is love.
Let us organize Nakagawa's Andromeda strain-induced ramblings. From what he said, he saw me walking with someone back in May, and he was awestruck by that person, who happens to be a North High girl. The number of girls that have walked on the streets with me and Haruhi was very small, and I'm not making this up. If it's limited to North High schoolgirls, then my sister would be off the list, which would leave just the 3 SOS Brigade girls.
This has all been determined by fate.
Nakagawa continued to revel in his glorious moment.
You know, Kyon, I had never believed in those mystical things like love at first sight. I, too, had considered myself to be a materialistic person. Yet love has arrived so suddenly, and it has opened my eyes. There really is love at first sight, Kyon.
Why must I listen to you ramble on and on? Love at first sight? Seems like your eyes have been covered by some external skin.
No, that's not true. I'm not the sort to be fooled by a girl's looks or figure. What's most important is her inner character. I saw through to her inner character with one look, and that was enough. That powerful impact made a strong impression on me that will be impossible to replace. Sadly, I just can't express this in words. All I can say is I've fallen in love. No, I'm still falling. You understand, Kyon?
That was what I didn't understand. Forget it. Let's leave that aside. I decided to put an end to Nakagawa's never-ending insane chatter. You say you were struck by the lightning thrown out by that girl back in May, right? But it's already winter now. Just what have you been doing until now?
That's it, Kyon. Now that you've mentioned it, I now feel even more depressed. I've been at a loss of what to do for these past few months. My mind has never rested since then, as my feelings couldn't find a way out. I was thinking all the time whether I would be a good match for that girl. I'll be frank, Kyon, I only just thought about contacting you recently. It was because you were walking beside her that I remembered you and decided to look up the junior high school book for your number. Her beauty is just so dazzling. Never before has a girl made me go crazy like this.
To lose yourself completely over a girl whose name you don't even know, and to be stressed about it for nearly half a year? Isn't your obsession a bit too scary? Describe what the girl you have fallen for looks like. Nakagawa went silent for a while.
She had short hair,
He said as though retracing his memories.
and she wore glasses.
Ah.
The North High sailor uniform looked as though it was made specially for her. She looked gorgeous in it.
Uh-huh.
And she was completely engulfed in this glittering aura.
Well, I don't know much about that, but... Do you mean Nagato? It really was a surprise. At first I thought that the person that would drive Nakagawa nuts would be either Haruhi or Asahina-san. I never thought that it would be Nagato. Taniguchi sure knows how to grade his girls. The first time I saw her, I thought she was just a silent and weird ancient doll sitting in the club room. I never knew there were so many people with such refined taste. Of course, my impression of Nagato now has changed greatly since then, especially in the past few months.
So her name's Nagato, is it?
Nakagawa's voice began to sound excited. Yuki Nagato.
It's a good name. Yuki Nagato-san. It's just as I thought. It's a clear name, full of possibilities. Elegant, yet not overbearing. And it doesn't sound aloof. It's just as I had imagined it to be.
How did he imagine it to be? What sort of delusion could he see with just one look? You say you only care about inner character. May I ask, what does one's inner character have to do with love at first sight?
I just knew.
He said matter-of-factly. His confidence was beginning to sound irritating.
This is not a delusion. I'm sure of it, that no matter what she looks like or what her personality is, she possesses a kind of rational beauty. I saw in her the wisdom and logic that one would find in a deity. She's a sort of highbrow girl that one might never meet in one's whole life.
That's what I don't get. Why is it that you know she would be noble just by looking at her once? You've never spoken to her. You merely saw her from afar.
I just know. That's why I'm so hopelessly in love with her.
Why should I listen to you yell for no reason?
I'm so graceful to God. I'm so ashamed of myself for not believing in him before. Since then, I've regularly gone to a nearby shrine to pray every week. I would also occasionally go to churches, both Catholic and Protestant.
Praying blindly everywhere is more unfaithful than not believing anything at all. Besides, it's not like you'll get results every time you pray. Pick one deity and stick with praying to him.
Yeah, you're right. I thank you, Kyon. I'm even more determined now because of you. From now on, I'll only pray to one goddess, and that is Nagato-san. She will be my only goddess, to whom I will give my unconditional love.
Nakagawa. As he'll just go on and on, I quickly interrupted him. Partly because it sounded too cheesy, and partly because I was becoming irritated for some reason. So what do you want? I already know why you called, but what's next? You know it's pointless, telling me about your love for Nagato.
I need you to relay a message for me. I hope you can give a message to Nagato-san. Please, you're the only one who can help me. Since you were walking side by side with her, you should be pretty close to her, right?
He's sort of right. We were both members of the SOS Brigade, and we are still happily rotating as satellites around Haruhi's orbit. Besides, the Nagato he saw walking with me was the bespectacled Nagato back in May. I see, so it was back then. The first SOS Brigade mystery search, the time when I went to the library with Nagato. How nostalgic. Compared to then, my understanding of Nagato has now increased hundreds of times. So much so that I'm beginning to wonder if I've come to know too much about her. With these memories in mind, I asked Nakagawa. Right, you say you remember seeing me walking with Nagato. To be honest, I felt uncomfortable asking this question. But why did you only think that I was merely close to her? Didn't you think that I could be dating Nagato?
Not at all.
Nakagawa didn't flinch a bit.
You're the sort who's fond of weirder girls. Like back in our 3rd year. What's her name? Weren't you going out with that enigmatic girl?
You, as a Nagato lover, are the least qualified to comment on my preferences. I suddenly felt as though I had just lost my balance, but it's obvious he got something wrong. Ah, yes, Kunakita has gotten that wrong as well. I was just friends with that girl. Now that I think about it, we've not even met since our graduation from junior high. I still do occasionally think of her every few days. I wonder if I should send her a New Year greeting card. For some reason, I feel as though I'm digging my own grave. Perhaps I should change the subject. So, what is it that you want me to relay? An invitation for a date? Or do you want me to ask for Nagato's phone number? I'm sure that's an easier favor to do.
No. Right now, I'm still a nobody. How could I just appear before Nagato-san like that? It's just not qualified. That's why. Can you please tell her to wait for me?
Wait for you to what end?
Wait for me to propose to her. Will that do? Because right now I'm just a first-year high school student without any social experiences.
Well, I'm not that much different from you.
That won't do. Listen to me, Kyon. I'm going to work really hard from now on. No, the truth is I've already been working hard. At this rate, I would qualify for a state university with my grades.
Well, it's good to have a long-term objective.
I'm going to do a major in economics. I'll continue to study hard once I'm in university, and try to be the best amongst the North High graduates. Once I'm out in society, I'm not going to join some big company, but I'm going to get a job with a medium or small-sized firm. But I won't be content with being a classless person. Give me 3 years. No, I'll only need 2 years. I'll learn all the knowledge that I need to start a business.
He sure knows how to talk, and it sounds as though it's all gonna happen. I'm not going to stop you, so go ahead and give it a try. If by then I'm having trouble with my career, mind if I work under you?
After that, the company that I've created would take 5 years. No, I'll try some of this in 3 years. By then, it'll be listed in the second section of topics. Its projected annual growth will be at least 10%, and it'll all be net profit.
I find myself struggling to catch up with Nakagawa's mode of thinking, but he seemed to be getting more excited as he went on.
By that time, I will be able to take a small break, since all the preparations will be ready.
Preparations for what?
Preparations for my proposal to Nagato-san.
I fell silent like a deep ocean shellfish, while Nakagawa's words felt like a torrent of waves splashing over me.
I still have 2 years before I graduate from high school, and 4 years from university. My in-job training will take at least 2 years, while it'll take 3 years for me to set up a company and get it listed in public. That's a total of 11 years. No, let's round that up to 10 years. In 10 years, I'll be a formidable entrepreneur.
Are you nuts? I'm sure you would all understand why I was suddenly so rude. What girl in her right mind would wait for him for 10 years? Not to mention that the girl has never even met him before. To suddenly have a guy ask her to wait 10 years for him so that he could propose to her, if she had actually waited mindlessly, then she wouldn't be from this world. Unfortunately, Nagato just so happens to be out of this world. Literally. I bit my tongue and waited.
I'm serious.
What's worse was that he actually sounded serious as well.
I'm willing to bet my life in this, because I really mean it.
If sounds have blades in them, then his voice sounded as though it could cut through many wires at once. Now what should I do to get this over with? Well, Nakagawa? The image of Nagato silently reading her book appeared in my mind. This is just my personal opinion, but Nagato actually has a lot of hidden admirers. So many that she's already feeling exasperated by them. I commend you for your fine taste in Nagato, but she is going to remain single for now, and the chances of her waiting 10 years for you are close to 0. I actually made all that up. How was I to know what would happen in 10 years? I wasn't even sure of my own future. Besides, something this important ought to be told in person to Nagato herself. Though I'm reluctant to do it, I'll still help arrange a meeting for you. It's winter vacation now, so it shouldn't be a problem asking her to spend 1 hour meeting you.
I can't do it.
Nakagawa's voice suddenly went soft.
Right now, I don't think I'm capable of seeing her. If I saw Nagato-san's face, I would faint at once. Actually, I have seen her from afar recently. That time it was just outside the supermarket by the station. Though it was at night, I still recognized her back. I was instantly frozen, and I stood there until the supermarket was closing. If I were to meet her directly, the consequences would be unimaginable.
Oh boy. Nakagawa has been completely infected by the love virus. He even set out his plans for the next 10 years. Such was an indication of how serious his illness was. While there exists a cure, it'll only be made available after he has been awestruck by meeting the alien directly, and then having her eject him and run away. Besides, he has already gone through the great lengths to call a person he barely knew just to bemoan his agony. Even more terrifying, it was impossible to predict what he's going to say next. I already have to put up with Haruhi, and now Nagato has brought me another annoying person to deal with. I deliberately sighed loudly so that Nakagawa could hear. Well, basically I understand already. Just repeat what you want me to say to Nagato.
Thank you, Kyon.
Nakagawa sounded really grateful.
We'll definitely invite you to our wedding. I'll have to ask you to write a speech for us then. You'll be the first to give the speech. I'll never forget you for my whole life. If you ever feel like making a name with me, I'll make sure there's always a place in my company for you.
No thanks. Just hurry up already. I listened to Nakagawa's anxiously irritating voice while placing the receiver on my shoulder as I grabbed a blank sheet of paper.